left lanes there as well. 32 out to Wolf, 44 out to Route 390. Kennedy outbound heavy road, Hubbard's Cave with flooding in the 3 left lanes, 13 to Montrose, 23 to the airport. That's traffic. I'm Jeremy Scott. On AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Heavy dense fog in central Illinois. Rain and thunderstorms should be clearing out by late in the AM. They're becoming a little on the sunny side. Windy, 72 by the afternoon. Currently 46. Next news coming up at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. On AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by In the Know with Wealth Management Group, hosted by Craig Bolanos. Heard Sunday mornings at 10.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy coming in with a little outfield there. FBI, DNI got together, had a press conference yesterday to inform the public about efforts by America's enemies, specifically the Iranians and the Russians, to interfere with the administration of the November election, specifically with respect to obtaining voter registration data for the purposes of spreading agitprop. Here's John Ratcliffe, Director of National Intelligence, explaining.
We have identified that 2 foreign actors, Iran and Russia, have taken specific actions to influence public opinion relating to our elections. First, we have confirmed that some voter registration information has been obtained by Iran and separately by Russia. This data can be used by foreign actors to attempt to communicate false information to registered voters that they hope will cause confusion, sow chaos, and undermine your confidence in American democracy. To that end, we have already seen Iran sending spoofed emails designed to intimidate voters, incite social unrest, and damage President Trump. You may have seen some reporting on this in the last 24 hours, or you may have even been one of the recipients of those emails. Additionally, Iran is distributing other content to include a video that implies that individuals could cast fraudulent ballots, even from overseas. This video and any claims about such allegedly fraudulent ballots are not true.
And FBI Director Christopher Wray added the alacrity with which the FBI is pursuing any intelligence on efforts to interfere with the election.
We are not going to tolerate foreign interference in our elections or any criminal activity that threatens the sanctity of your vote or undermines public confidence in the outcome of the election. When we see indications of foreign interference or federal election crimes, we're going to aggressively investigate and work with our partners to quickly take appropriate action.
It seems very much like in 2016, even more so in 2020, with the nature of the push for all mail-in voting in certain jurisdictions. That as much talk as there is about the threat that foreign interests have in disrupting the election, trying to manipulate the election, trying to manipulate voters' attitudes, that it's really the domestic issues that are preeminent, isn't it? By the way, the emails in question were sort of like were presented as
Proud Boys.
Yeah,
from the Proud Boys
as ways to. This was apparently an effort to intimidate non-Trump voters, intimidate voters that the Iranians believed were Biden voters, effectively, with these threatening emails, ostensibly from Trump supporters, the Proud Boys, and so it's to cast a bad light on Trump, and that was what Ratcliffe was referencing. For more on this topic and many others, we're pleased to be joined by Ben Williamson, Deputy Assistant to the President, Senior Advisor to Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and Senior Communications Advisor as well. Ben, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan and Amy. Morning. How are you all?
Morning. So it was an important presser, the joint DNI and FBI director remarks there, because it just makes it clear to the American people that the Trump administration is serious about interdicting efforts to interfere by enemies of America with our election.
Well, you're absolutely right. Applause to Director Ratcliffe, Director Wray for hosting the presser last night. This is part of the effort that we're making to be transparent with the American people, moving into an election, making sure that they know that their vote is secure, making sure that they know that we're addressing this critical issue. I want your listeners to know we're on top of this. This is an administration that has spent and invested millions, if not billions of dollars in election security, making sure our systems are secure, making sure we're holding foreign actors accountable for any evidence we see of foreign interference. And that's exactly what you saw last night. Director Ratcliffe and Director Wray laying out the information for the American people so that they can be aware of what's going on. I love what John Ratcliffe said last night, which is the best weapon we can provide you, the American people, to respond to foreign interference is the truth, is information. And that's what we did last night. That's what we'll continue to do. We're on top of this, and moving forward, this is the kind of thing you're going to see from this president and his administration.
Part of, censorship is, or foreign interference is censorship. And what has President Trump done towards censorship? Words are hard today. When it comes to social media companies and what they're doing to certain accounts of certain people, and even newspapers that publish stories that they don't like.
Well, this has been one of the more disturbing elements we've seen, not just in the past week. I know it's been in the news quite a bit over the last week, but over the last 3-4 years, there's been a particular problem with social media companies censoring, conservatives censoring Republicans, in particular. About my longtime boss, Mark Meadows, when he was in Congress before he became the president's chief of staff, was actually one of 4 conservatives in the House that was found to have been blacklisted or censored by Twitter. I think it was in September of 2018. So this has been something that's been going on for a while. It's deeply disturbing. The president, again, has been one of the few politicians that's been willing to stand up to social media companies. He signed multiple executive orders instructing the DOJ, I believe it is, to make sure that we evaluate all options for holding companies accountable if they're going to be engaging in this illicit censorship. One of the main things we want to do is work with the legislative body, particularly the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Hawley, Senator Ted Cruz has been on top of this, to look at legislation we can pass to reform or address Section 230. Because while it's important that we keep government out of regulation if possible, if social media companies are going to behave like they've behaved recently, where all the censorship is going one way toward conservatives and toward Republicans, and they're chilling speech in one direction but not on both sides, that's a problem. And that's something that this president's going to address. We need to make sure that that's a balanced approach and that they aren't favoring one party over the other when they censor speech.
Nancy Pelosi continues to draw red lines, then erase them in terms of ultimatums, deadlines for any COVID relief package before the election. And Mitch McConnell seems to be losing interest in any COVID relief action before the election as well. Where's the White House on all this?
Well, Dan and Amy, as far as Speaker Pelosi's position on these stimulus negotiations, you know the scene in Charlie Brown where Sally in the theme song holds the football out and Charlie Brown goes to kick it and he goes flying up in the air when Sally keeps pulling the ball out from under him. Yeah. That's kind of what it's felt like in these stimulus negotiations, where you have a Speaker of the House that has dragged these negotiations out for so long, where we've wondered if they even really want a deal at all. What I will say is that the Senate continues to put targeted relief on the floor. I mean, a month ago, I believe it was exactly a month ago, they voted on a couple packages of $500 billion of direct relief to the American people. The Senate Democrats blocked it. We've offered as much as $1.88 trillion from the White House, and House Democrats have said no. They're insisting on around $2.3 trillion. Much of it is not germane or related to coronavirus relief. And we suspect the reason for that is politics, that Democrats aren't interested in injecting money into the economy close to an election because it wouldn't help them get votes. But nonetheless, we're going to keep working. I mean, Secretary Mnuchin is going to continue talking to Speaker Pelosi. We are hopeful we can get an agreement at least on language here by the end of the week. Americans are hurting, and they deserve us to keep working whether or not politics comes into play. They deserve for their representatives to put politics aside and pass something. And even if Democrats aren't going to do that, what I can promise you is that this White House is going to make every effort to do that nonetheless.
Now, I just have to, one point of order here. I mean, I just can't let this go by. I can't let you disgrace the memory of Charles Schultz. It was Lucy in the Peanuts.
Lucy,
not Sally. So I'll accept.
Oh, there you go.
I'll accept your apology, and we can move on to more productive things. But I just have to demand an apology for that.
It's been a while. I'm out of the Charlie Brown game. Thank you.
Yeah.
So are a lot of us.
So this is a political thing, but it's a legal thing. I'm talking about Hunter Biden's laptop and the news that the FBI subpoena of a laptop and hard drive purportedly belonging to Hunter Biden came in connection with a money laundering investigation in late 2019, according to documents obtained by Fox News, verified by multiple federal law enforcement officials who reviewed them. So it's just remarkable. At the same time, the president was being impeached for raising this, from the perspective of House Democrats, for raising the specter of the Biden Inc. dealings in Ukraine. The FBI was ostensibly investigating money laundering schemes that may have involved Hunter Biden in Ukraine.
Well, the more information that comes to light on this, Dan, the more disturbing the situation is. I mean, the report in Fox News yesterday from Brooks Singman, I believe it was disturbing on a number of levels, where you continue to see more and more information come out that it seems like President Trump was impeached for Hunter Biden's crimes. That's what it seems, or the things that Joe Biden was doing more and more. This is a critical issue, Dan and Amy. And listen, I want to assure your listeners that the White House's main focus, the president's main focus, is on their jobs, their livelihoods, making sure they put food on the table. Since I've seen some feedback over the last 48 hours regarding the Hunter Biden issue. But I want them to understand this is a critical issue, too. When you talk about government officials that use their official positions to enrich themselves and their families, that's a problem. That's something that people need to understand and they need to know about. Because when you look at particularly the situation you're in, or we're in as a country, where we need everyone focused on one goal, which is getting Americans back to work, it's something that people need to know about. If politicians in the past have put themselves and enriching their families above America first, above Americans having their own jobs and having their own prosperity. It's a disturbing situation, something that certainly needs to be held accountable, and the president has law enforcement officers working on that to make sure that Americans, like John Ratcliffe said, have the best weapon they can to evaluate the situation. That's the truth. What we're committed to getting them.
Has he spoken to FBI Director Wray about this? Has he asked him about anything related to the Hunter Biden laptop and what the FBI has or has not been doing on this matter?
Dan, I don't believe so. I don't know of any conversation, but generally the president and we at the White House generally stay out of ongoing investigations. We do get updates periodically through normal procedures and through proxies over different channels, but generally we don't speak to the director about the ongoing investigation.
I understand that, but did you just learn there was potentially an ongoing investigation based on Fox News reporting? Because with the New York Post reporting 8 days ago, the impression was that nobody knew that the FBI had this, or at least until the New York Post reporting, and then nobody knew what, if anything, the FBI was doing with it, that whether there was an investigation.
What I can tell you is that I and the people that I work with, we learned through the media. The first time that we heard about it was from the Fox News report, that they had been investigating this issue, something that was absolutely shocking. And it's something that we'll be monitoring moving forward, because the more that comes out about this story, the more you find that the swamp ran deep through the Biden family, and certainly with this Hunter Biden laptop. So something we're monitoring, something our law enforcement agencies are on top of it, and the truth will ultimately come out, is what we know.
Well, we hope that the truth that will ultimately come out is something that people want to believe, but it's becoming more and more a challenge to believe that, out of D.C. at least. Ben Williamson.
Oh, you're right. You're right about that.
Ben Williamson, Deputy Assistant to the President, Senior Advisor to Chief of Staff Meadows, Senior Comms Advisor as well. Ben, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's good to have you. Thanks.
Thanks. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
The Lou Dobbs Financial